consent agenda?
If we can get consent, yes.
So that'll be on the consent agenda. Resolution approving a salary range for full-time city administrator. 320 for the deal. I'll put that on the consent agenda. And D is a resolution for the city's budget transfer $12,000 for the court. Hang on. We have a consent agenda on that. Okay, the resolution of the city contract to C.W. Matthews. We have a consent agenda on C.W. Matthews. And a resolution authorizing the city to execute the amendment for professional services appointing the city treasurer as the IT guy. And G is that's the resolution. G.
Resolution is G, yes.
Yeah. The resolution to transfer $25K from the special call meeting. All right, we got through A through G. Now we'll go to Henry County Planning and Zoning. Back on the schedule, we got the item number 4, be presented by Jeremy Gilbert, Henry County. It's a rezoning RC-12-02. Minimum Christian Church in McDonough, Glory, request a rezoning from M1 Light Manufacturing to O1 Office Institution for property located 1120 Village Business Parkway, land lot 2 of the 12th district. The property consists of 4.44 plus or minus acres and request for a church.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. The request that is before you is a rezoning request for property that's located within the city of Stockbridge. It's currently zoned M1, and the request is to rezone it to O&I for the purposes of a church. The applicant intends to utilize an existing vacant facility on 4.4 acres north of Eagles Landing Parkway. It's west of the railroad right-of-way as a church. The subject property takes access from Village Business Parkway, which is a dead-end road off of Eagles Landing Parkway. The property is zoned M1 and is surrounded by other M1 zonings. The property itself is a former frozen food distribution location. The city of Stockbridge's future land use map does designate the property for industrial uses. However, there's no city provisions that we could find that would prevent the applicant from requesting to change that future land use map. Churches and similar religious facilities are permitted use in the O&I zoning district, but they are not permitted in the M1 zoning district, even as a conditional use. Therefore, leading the applicant to request for this rezoning to O&I. Staff did recommend denial of the applicant's request due to its inconsistency with the future land use map, but at the zoning advisory board meeting on May the 10th, the zoning advisory board did recommend approval of the request to rezone the property. They also recommended that the city of Stockbridge review the Stockbridge city ordinances as it pertains to religious facilities within all zoning districts to either look at, is it something you would want as a conditional use in the industrial zoning districts, or is it something that you want only in the O&I or with a conditional use in commercial? I'll entertain any questions that you have.
Mr. Steiner.
Chairman, if we rezone this now, this is a permanent rezoning, correct? It cannot return back to a former condition?
That is correct. If you rezone the property to O&I, it would be rezoned to O&I until such time another applicant came in and requested that zoning to go back to M1, or at the time that the city would do a city-initiated rezoning, but it would require board action again.
Is it permanent?
Yes.
Yes, it would be permanent. It's permanent. It can be changed. It could be another request to come in the event that the church was to vacate the premises and another manufacturing use wanted to come in, but they could rezone the property back to industrial.
Okay. The second question, please. Am I correct in saying that, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. The city has no organized plan for church use in various zoning areas. And it's
Correct.
the county's recommendation that we come back and actually put together some sort of overall plan to look at church and their applications.
That is correct. From the standpoint of the City of Stockbridge's ordinance, currently churches are permitted use in the O&I zoning district only. They are allowed as conditional uses in residential zoning districts as well as the commercial zoning districts, but not in the industrial zoning districts. When the ordinance was amended, the adopted version of Henry County's ordinance that the city has adopted by reference at the time didn't have the M1 conditional uses. The county then amended theirs to allow it in M1, and then since we adopted the Unified Land Development Code, we also allow it in M1 as a conditional use, so it can be looked at on a case-by-case basis.
And last question, please. It's my understanding that the building would be purchased by the church, conditioned on the rezoning that's before us.
That is my understanding from what the applicant has relayed to us as staff, is that they do have a contract to purchase the property, and it is contingent on the rezoning. If the property is not rezoned, then they're not bound to have to purchase the property and not be able to utilize it.
We'll have to speak in a second, Ms. Bush.
And I was going to ask what Mr. Sandberg.
Do you want to speak on behalf? Give me your name for the record.
David Powers. I'm on staff at Momentum Christian Church. Yes, we actually are a church, a plant that was started in 2007. We are currently in Ghana in an industrial building, which is M1. We have conditional use. We leased that building for the first 3 years and purchased it in December of 2009. We outgrown the building. We're out of seats and out of parking. But our vision has never been to build one big place where everybody is coming to. So our vision has always been multiple campuses. This would be an extension of our ministry. We're planning to purchase the building if it is rezoned. If it's not rezoned, we can't use it, so we have no reason to purchase it. That's a contingency in our contract. We are allowed to rezone it, to close on it. We will renovate it, and we will occupy it as a church. We won't be using it for daycare or anything like that. It'll be strictly for church services.
Thank you, Mr. President. Wish you well.
Is there anyone here to speak in favor of it? Is there anyone here to speak in not favor of it?
So, Mr. Mayor, I have a legal question on the transparent and clear on my position on my ability as a council person. I personally know David. He's actually part of it. I support their church. They came from the Tom Christian Church years ago. Their mission statement, what he just said, is factual. Multiple campuses, not one conglomerate, one huge worship center. So I remember, and I can remember at Madonna Christian, the established church that he is now part of. Like I said, they purchased, they occupied, and grown. They want him to do that here. I'm just, not trying to say I'm for or against at this moment. I'm just saying from a legal affiliation, because actually David and I did broker some work, I think some awning work for my own church. So there had been dollars transpiring between my church and his facilitation of that. I want to make sure that I stay completely clean and transparent of that relationship and how that affects me legally and as a council person.
Yeah, I was on staff at Madonna Christian Church at the time, not Momentum Christian Church.
I'll answer your question generally because the city has obviously ethics ordinances that apply. I'd have to take a good hard look at them. So if you want to email me, the exact question, I'll be happy to look at it in depth. But generally, you always have the option to stay in the vote. Ethically, usually you run into ethical problems when you are able to benefit financially from an item that you are voting on. And that's one of the rules you see over and over again in ethics ordinances. And so if that were the case, I would definitely recommend that you abstain from voting and announce why. But in this instance, I didn't hear that, and so perhaps if you gave me the full facts, I could look to make sure there was no problem. But you know, if there's any question, obviously you can abstain.
Well, thank you, and I'll get that to you in writing, and you can do some due diligence and let me know before the hard vote on that. Thank you.
And I intentionally not had any contact with him even regarding this. I don't know if you know that he was coming before tonight, so.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I just have one real quick question. The pictures in our book, I'm not familiar. I'm familiar with the business park area, but I've not been down in there.
Yes.
These pictures indicate to me, originally I was worried about if we changed the zoning, that it would affect the industrial area, but these pictures indicate to me that there's really no warehouses close to.
There's nothing else on that street currently. We have a good relationship also with the owner of all the remaining property on that street. He is not opposed in any way at all to us being there or rezoning it. In addition to that, the entire front portion, what is shown on the future land use map as industrial, is already developed, and it's all commercial, including a daycare. So even though the future land use map shows that entire area being industrial, even as you get out there right now, it is not all industrial. And the railroad tracks actually form a better line of demarcation for what is industrial and what is commercial residential. Because what the land use map actually shows is that triangle of industrial directly abutting a large residential area, which is that Windsong subdivision. But currently, there's nothing else on that street. There's some property, I think, that is owned by the county for, I think it's the water department or something, that's a chain area. And you do pass a storage facility, but it's not accessible actually from that road.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you. Item 5 will be presented by Jeremy, Andrew County, rezoning RC 1109S to Ease Management Group of Stockbridge, Georgia, request rezoning from O&I Office Institution C2 General Commercial for property located at 107 Flippin Road and land lot 59 of the 12th District. The property consists of 1.5 acres, and the request is for a restaurant. Here.
Good evening again, Mayor and council members. The request that you have is a rezoning request. It is on Flippin Road there at 107. It's at the intersection of Flippin Road and Old Atlanta. The applicant intends to develop the 1.519 plus or minus acres on that southwest corner for a restaurant. The property is currently developed with a frame structure that is vacant, and it has an associated non-residential parking lot. The property is currently zoned O&I, Office Institutional, and was a previous location of a professional office, massage therapy clinic, and for Christian ministries. Staff originally had advised the applicant that they needed C1 for the zoning district for a restaurant. However, the city of Stockbridge's zoning ordinance only allows freestanding restaurants in the C2. So it was sent back to the zoning advisory board to be reheard. The applicant requested C2 versus the C1. That's why this application is coming back. The property is designated on the future land use map for medium density residential. So the request is inconsistent with the future land use map. Planning staff did recommend denial, but have put 6 conditions that were recommended by our Department of Transportation in our proposal in the event the City Council opts to approve this request. But at the May 10th, 2012 Zoning Advisory Board meeting, the request was recommended for denial by the Zoning Advisory Board. I'm answering any questions that you have on this request.
I'm very familiar with this property, as I think all of us are. You mentioned, you alluded to the
future land use map was adopted in the city of Stockbridge. I believe the city of Stockbridge adopted the future land use map in 2008. The county adopted the final version for the county in 2009. So it was in 2008. The process for bringing forth the comprehensive plan, as well as that associated thing, began in about 2005 and ran through 2008 to be adopted by the city in 2008.
Thank you. Follow-up question. When was this property zoned 09?
The property was owned on March 13, 1995 by the Stockbridge City Council, and those zoning conditions were found in 1995.
It said 95.
1995, March the 13th.
You know, basically, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to vent a little here because of my familiarity with that location, it's frustrating that this particular council is going to be asked to make a difficult decision. The county or whomever participated in the land use map should have probably picked up on this little parcel that is just intrusive of the residential district by literally its association to the road. So we have a long-term land use map that reflects this particular parcel to be residential when indeed at the time it was being drafted, it was 09. So, I just want to go on record and let people understand the flow of how we came to this point. So I just want to go on record and make sure that we knew that the 09 was historically way before this request. A lot of other businesses have conducted business, but with that being on the record, it's still going to be up to this council to make a hard decision.
That is correct. With the future land use map designating the property for medium density residential, when that process was done by the consulting firm that was hired jointly as the county and as well as all of the cities hired that consultant jointly, they worked out that process. There were some parcels in the county that were currently zoned for commercial and non-residential uses, and as they went through and evaluated and did public participation and received all of that information, it was determined some of those may not need to be commercial in the future. We have to look at also that the future land use map gives us a snapshot of what Henry County or the city of Stockbridge for their portion should look like in 2030. In 1995, when the property was rezoned to 09, it was more than likely against that future land use map at the time because there was no commercial in that area or office and institutional beyond what was along the frontage of Highway 42. So I believe during the time of the comprehensive plan and when all that was going through, that it was determined then that commercial wasn't appropriate. That is not to say that that can't change, just like with any other document, our zoning ordinances and our comp plans, they're there to be changed when opportunities are presented to move something forward, to be able to be proactive moving forward in development in your county. So you do have the mechanisms and stuff in place to amend that comp plan because it's something we only do every 10 years, and then we do it for a 30-year plan.
These 6 conditions, that's if they were to be approved, right?
That is correct. We put these conditions in our Department of Transportation. One of the engineers in that department had some recommendations that as far as access points, the site plan that was submitted to the Planning and Zoning Office as part of this request showed multiple access points, some of them current access points that don't meet site distance, that are too close to the intersections. And the Department of Transportation wanted to capture those comments in the event that the City Council chooses to approve the request, that some of those items can be addressed, not adding extra curb cuts when they're not necessarily needed, and potentially closing some that already do not meet site distance to make the health, safety, and welfare of the general public better.
Okay, is the applicant here?
Yes.
You got to come up.
afternoon, Mayor and Council. Thank you for this opportunity. And I wanted to point out some things to you.
State your name, so you can.
I'm sorry, my name is Vivian Smith.
Thank you.
Some of the things I wanted to point out to you is concerning this future map, land use map. Like he stated, it started in 2008 and finished in 2009. It's updated every 10 years. I learned more about that map, probably some of you guys know about it, because I did the history on it and what it was for. And then I determined that the map actually is in conflict with what your URA committees want to do. When I looked at the city of Stockbridge and your plans internally, it talks about mixed development. It talks about developing Stockbridge with residential and commercial sites combined. Now that's exactly what we're trying to do. Now, of course, when I went to that URA meeting and looked at the plans, they immediately told me they had no money to do any of that. But that's what their plans are to do. The other things I want to point out to you, like Mr. Gilbert just stated, you have an opportunity, a map is designed to have you look at it every 10 years, and it's upgraded every 10 years. You have the opportunity to look at what opportunities are available to enhance that. They are bound by that map, so he has to make his recommendation based upon that map. It may be antiquated, it may be outdated, but the staff is bound to make their recommendation based upon that map only. You all are not. You're to look at Stockbridge and the needs of Stockbridge and determine what opportunities are good for Stockbridge and what things can be brought here to help the city grow and prosper. So you can make adjustments in spite of that map, whereas his staff cannot. Another thing I want to point out is that we did not haphazardly make a plan for that site. We went and sat down with the planning and zoning committee here in the county. Mr. Stacy Jordan is no longer there, but we sat at his table with him to talk about how can we frame this, how can we plan this to make it complement the area of Stockbridge. And we came up with the plan, working with the planning department. And after coming up with the plan, then the planning department came up with some conditions. We think this could happen. And if it does happen, here are the things, the conditions we want to be in place. We did not fight those conditions. You have them in front of you. Which says that we're here to work with the city, not battle with the city. Work with the people around us, not battle with them, and still give them the privacy that they need, not impose upon them, but complement the area with a very good business. Now, if we didn't care about it, we would not have gone to the table, sat down with the planning committee, took our architect with us to make sure we were doing something that's good for the city and that would complement the city. And that's exactly what we did. And after we finished, it was kind of funny because he said, after all the hard work we just did, only because of this map, this future land use map, we have to make a recommendation of denial. Before your administrator left, Mr. Gibson had a long conversation with him. The same map. I told you I've done a lot of research on this map. Where it comes from, how is it used, who used it, how is it implemented, how is it changed, the whole gamut. Yes, I can give you a lesson on it, frankly speaking. He said the same thing. I'm not trying to disappoint him, he's not here. But he showed me how the map is used. Then he turned around and said, Vivian, the council has the right and has the ability to look at this map and say, it was antiquated, done in 2008, here's a good opportunity, we need to look at this, and we have the power to make adjustments. Now, one thing I want you to consider is that we are going to be a good business partner there. No matter what, we're going to put a business there. What type, you may recollect, but we're going to put something there. We're going to be a good business partner for Stockbridge. We want to put a restaurant there. There's nothing like what we want to put here in Stockbridge. If you mention the word Blue Willow, 1 out of 2 people normally say, I've been there. 1 out of 2 people say, I've heard of it. 1 out of 2 people say, I'm going. Because everybody knows it. By one thing, its name. We could do that for Stockbridge if you just let us do that. We could bring that same type of credibility right here, and that's what this city needs. Even though we are a small city, we are growing. And growing pains hurt. I know that. But if we work together, growing pains don't have to hurt as much. And yes, people who've been here a long time don't like to see it happen. I've been there too. But we have to realize we're looking for the whole city and how to help the city by bringing sales tax, jobs, county tax, opportunities for growth here. That's what we're doing. And I'm asking you to consider what we're doing for the city and make a good choice for Stockbridge. Thank you.
Is there anyone who speaks in favor of it, wants to speak? One. Is there anyone who is opposed and wants to speak? You know, would one, I don't know, if you want to come up here one at a time, and you can speak and state your name into the record so they can hear you recorded.
Mildred Reed, I would like to speak in favor. I met Vivian in the question her office, and we talked, and she shared the information about the property. And I'm very excited about it. She mentioned below, but there was another place down here in City Green Manor, I think it's what it's called, that had a similar concept. And I like the idea, and I think it would be an excellent idea for Stockbridge.
Thank you. Not in favor? You in favor or nothing? Okay. We got all in favor? Let's get the rep of favors in. I'm sorry.
My name is Melvin Thomas. I'm in favor of restaurant